This is where art and history collide, a portal into historic small town America where we uncover the hidden stories that inspire my work. I'm Whitney Whiteow, your artist and your host, and today we're going back to Bozeman, Montana, and the year is 1900. Well, we're actually going a little bit further in today's episode. We're going to go back to 1890, roughly, for the historical relevance of what we're going to be talking about. And so we're going to step into 1890 Bozeman and figure out just a little bit about Hotel Bozeman and some backstory of the history of Bozeman. This painting is inspired by the two main buildings inside of it, the Bozeman Hotel and the City Hall, which will be next episode. And you're going to want to listen to that one because that one's really fun. And so setting up the scene, if you are just listening, thank you. But if you have the time, please go and check out the YouTube video or even the video on Spotify, because I clip in a lot of newspaper clippings, old photographs. You get to see this beautiful painting that not to toot my own horn or anything, but it's gorgeous. And so you get to experience a little bit of that and you get more context to what I'm talking about. But whatever you've got time for, I appreciate that you're even here. So thank you. All right. We're going to set the scene and kind of take you on an auditory little journey of what this painting actually looks like. So a dusty rose sky settles over a 1900 Bozeman Main Street, casting a warm glow on the grand Hotel Bozeman and the inviting opera house. The town hums with life. A horse-drawn carriage awaits at the curb, and a mother and daughter cross the street, their skirts brushing the dusty earth. Gaslights flicker as a streetcar rolls steadily down the tracks. It's painted with golden hour lighting, and it's a little bit more Western looking comparatively to my other streetscapes. I just love it. It's got this beautiful glow from the shop lights, and then the sky is just grand and soft and romantic. It's a very romantic painting. And if you notice, in a lot of my paintings, I always have a mother and daughter pair somewhere in there. Not always, but most of the time, like 90% of the time I put them in there. And the mother is usually in blue and the daughter is usually in red. And I don't have a little girl. I've got two little boys, but I had a dream long time ago that I had this little girl with blonde hair, and she was beautiful. So she hasn't come to me yet, and if she never makes it, I am putting her into my paintings. So look out for the little nuggets of my little girl throughout the paintings. I'm sorry, I'm gonna tear up a little bit. Gosh, maybe I need her. Okay. So, the history of Bozeman, Montana. It started out as a cow town, and John Bozeman and Daniel Rouse and William Beale officially platted the town of Bozeman in 1864. In 1863, the Bozeman Trail was established, and so if you were coming off of the Oregon Trail, it was one of those chutes off of the Oregon Trail that would head you in a different direction. And it was a direct path provided to the goldfields of Virginia City. And Virginia City is, it was the first state capital and everything like that. And so it attracted a lot of gold miners, people heading further west to like Oregon and whatnot as well. In 1883, the Northern Pacific Railroad came to be, and that really kicked off like the town of Bozeman. It brought in commerce, it brought in architecture, it brought in, people coming through, settling and whatnot. So that was super, super important for the town of Bozeman and its future success. And Bozeman today is just a rockin' and a rollin', and very, very well known because it's really, really close to Yellowstone National Park. You have Big Sky Mountain there, like the world-class ski resort, and the downtown is really thriving and it's beautiful, and the gorgeous shops all up and down, and beautiful art galleries, which one of them I'm in. It's Mountain Trails Gallery, and this painting will be in it, so you should stop in, and I will tell you exactly where Mountain Trails Gallery is because it's in my painting. Not historically, but the location is there. So with the introduction to the Northern Pacific Railroad brought in a whole host of other things, and the architecture started to develop from kind of these wooden shacks into 2-story brick buildings with pressed metal cornices, huge glass window storefronts, and recessed entries. So that was kind of the building phase that we are starting to move into. And the idea for the Bozeman Hotel is in 1892, Montana had an election for their state capital. So Montana was incorporated as a state. It gained its statehood in 1889, and it needed a capital. So in 1892, they decided to hold the election, and Bozeman wanted to be up for running. So it vied for that, state capital position. And so how are they going to do that? You got this kind of cow town. It's not really metropolitan or cosmopolitan. It needs to come up. And to set the stage for this, the idea is the Hotel Bozeman is going to set the precedent and give it credibility to be able to be voted for. And so it's this 4-story building, Romanesque inspired, gorgeous, like arched windows, stained glass, building that's got everything, all of the amenities, everything that you would need to really set the stage to attract people in to stay there. And it was directly across from the city hall here. So yeah, that's the idea. And they figured it's going to cost anywhere between $125,000 to $150,000. So the citizens of Bozeman, they all gathered up. They raised roughly $20,000 to put this up because everybody was gung-ho about getting this election and winning this election. So the citizens really stepped up. They put together $20,000, which is roughly close to $700,000 today. And then an optimistic group of capitalists from Boston who were now living in Bozeman decided that they were going to shell out $100,000. And that is about $3.5 million today to construct it. And so you had a couple of those guys come in and really, really get the work done. The architect was George Hancock. He was out of Fargo, North Dakota, came over to Bozeman, stayed for a while, and then he ended up leaving back. But he had his hand in his design in quite a few buildings downtown, and also in next episode, the City Hall. He had his hand in that as well. So it's placed on the corner of Main and Rouse Street, which just so happens because Daniel Rouse and John Bozeman kind of founded, and William Beale founded the city. And so you get the corner of Main and Rouse, and then they decided on the name The Bozeman. So it was, I don't know, it's just like perfect. It's just meant to be there. There was controversy, however, putting it on the east side of town because they were worried. Main Street stretches, it's a good amount. And they were worried that people were going to have to travel all the way through on these muddy streets. And there was the sidewalks were wooden planks, and they historically had nails popping out of them all the time, like kind of bending. They weren't the best designed or put together. So women were always ripping up their dresses on it, and they kind of sucked. So they didn't want a whole lot of people traveling that far. And then they were also concerned that past that on Main, There wasn't a whole lot developed either. You ran into fences, you ran into bushes and all kind of stuff. So there wasn't a good outlet that way either. In the end, they decided that it was the spot to be, and so they placed it. Now, the Bozeman, it started construction in 1890 and it finished in 1891, and it is still there today, and it's still just as beautiful as it originally was. Let's see here. It ends up costing them about $125,000 to $150,000. And today's terms, that's $4.4 to $5.2 million to put up this 4-story hotel with an annex. The annex was built in 1890, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. So it's built on the first floor. You have offices, reading rooms, lobbies, cloakroom, a dining room that seats 150 people, a ladies' parlor, a barber shop, the kitchen, obviously, got to be right next to the dining room, serving rooms, sampling rooms, bars and billiard rooms, card rooms, and 3 mercantile stores. So you got quite a bit of a pack of punch throughout there. I want to go stay there. There's a lot to do. And then the second, third, and fourth floors is where the ladies' waiting rooms are. It's where parlors are, over 100 rooms. They were all equipped with their own bathtubs, water closets, and they ran hot and cold water. And it was heated with steam. It had an elevator, and it had call bells and speaking tubes. So you speak through this tube and they can hear it wherever. And then the call bells, obviously, throughout, and fire alarm call bells. So it's safe as well. Okay, so that's all of its design, and it's beautiful and gorgeous, and stained glass windows and big arched, cutout windows and stuff. And then the grand opening is March 2nd of 1891, and it is the coldest possible day in March, like ever. -15 degrees was March 2nd, and in spite of that, they still had 500 people show up to the grand opening. And some of those came from Helena, some of them came from Butte. Obviously, almost everyone in Bozeman showed up to this, and this event was grand to fit the grandness of the Bozeman. So they stretched a red carpet from the second floor, like the ladies' waiting room, all the way down the street, over to City Hall, up the stairs, and in the second floor of City Hall is where the dance floor was. And so they made sure to protect the men and women's beautiful, expensive clothing from the notorious muddy streets. I'm pretty sure it was all completely frozen at that point, which was, but you had a red carpet at this grand opening for this beautiful hotel. Yeah, I would go to that. Would you? I definitely would. You get all dolled up and go out with -15 degree weather. Maybe not so much. All right. So Bozeman didn't obviously end up winning the election for state capital, but the Hotel Bozeman really kind of proved the optimism and enthusiasm that Bozeman supporters had in the city, and so it's continued. That optimism has continued all the way up to today. And the annex, now we're going to talk about the annex, which is the little 2-story building right next to it, originally was built in 1890, so it's kind of the first start of the Bozeman, and it held retail offices. And then in 1900, which this painting is dating to 1900, it held the Bozeman Chronicle Publishing Company, and they held one office in that. And then from 1900 to 1977, they ended up taking most of those offices, but they produced the paper. The Bozeman Chronicle was published a daily paper up until 1977. And so the hotel was one of the oldest running hotels, started in 1891, and it ran all the way up until the mid 1970s, so about 1977. At that point, it changed hands had been sold over a couple times, but still remained a hotel. In the late 70s, mid 70s, major renovations were done, and it turned into a commercial space, office spaces. So it's still there today. You should go check it out. It is gorgeous. And like I said, my gallery, the Montana Trails Gallery, is right next to it. So perfect. You get to go see both. You get to see the painting and you get to step outside and see the historic building that is in this painting. But yeah, so there is still, if you get to go inside into the Bozeman, they still have some cast iron columns. They still have a carved stairway. They still have parts of the pressed tin ceiling, like the lobby, so you can look at the ceiling, and lots of that's still original. But yeah, so that wraps up today's short little episode on the Bozeman and a little tiny back history of the city itself. Thank you so much for being here today, and I hope you learned something and I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please subscribe or like or comment or share with somebody. And if you're a history nerd and you love art, then this is the place to be, because that's what I am. And I just want to take you through a journey through Montana and tell you all about these little stories and hidden gems that we have that are still standing today over 130 years later. So yeah, next episode you want to definitely check out and be there for. So subscribe so that you get a notification when it comes up. It's going to be on the City Hall. And a little teaser is we get to learn about some politics of the 1890s and this incredible building that housed an opera house, a dance floor, a library, a jail, fire hall, city hall, police quarters, like all sorts of stuff. So that's going to be a fun episode. But yeah. Well, thank you so much for being here on this episode of Where Art and History Collide. Again, I'm Whitney Wido, and thank you so much. And I'll be seeing you around.